Wow, what a difference. The Talkbuster Podcast.
Oh, did you say bacon? Yeah, I see someone said, here, there's bacon, thank you.
Oh, we got it all over it. All right, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
So it's time for the reason you all are here, the actual podcast. So I'm going to introduce everyone. These are all my friends that I've known forever. So we have Tim and Paul, who is part of the reason why I am with Chris, because trivia fact, that's where I met him, was Salem Blockbuster, because he worked with Paul, one of my best friends.
When she says forever, she really means that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Steve, the Hobbit. We have Michelle. Hello. Movie Bob himself, Bob Chipman.
Hi, guys.
Scott, who hired Paul and Chris, so he's also responsible.
Actually, I came with the building.
The man himself, Mr. Chatterbox, Chris, the Chipman.
There it is.
The Chipper, wherever the hell you went.
Come on, Chris. The chicken.
Everybody, welcome.
Yeah.
So this is for all of them because I used to have spiked hair when I worked there, and I'm too bald to spike it anymore. So I figured I'd do this.
Slightly more tasteful.
Slightly more tasteful.
Tasteless. Dude, you frosted your hair.
Dude, lion face. Lemon face. Lion face. Lemon face. Anyways, welcome everybody to the Talkbuster Podcast. Those of you that were old enough to remember the Salem, Massachusetts Blockbuster on Free Traders Way, please raise your hands. Wow, there's actually a couple people. Cool. So everybody you see sitting here worked there. Tim has been recognized on the bus as the Blockbuster guy. Unfortunately, Scott was my store manager. Michelle and Steve and Paul were my assistant store managers. I worked there in 2000, 2001-ish is when I started. As a 17-year-old in high school looking for a job, I decided to go to where I'd already been hanging out, which was the Blockbuster that my brother, Movie Bob, worked at.
My name is Rusty Shackelford. I don't know who these people are.
Sorry, Movie Bob could not be here today, so Rusty Shackelford is here. Anyway, so I used to go there and hang out after school. I'd get out of school. I went to parochial school for a long time, and I transitioned into public school and had a hard time finding my footing because I hadn't been in school with all these kids for a while. So after school, I would drive up, had my license for the first time to this Blockbuster. And that's where I saw my brother. I saw some of the people you see sitting here. Steve had already been working there. Tim had already been working there. Paul had already been working there. When I got the job, I went in and interviewed because I was already hanging out there.
Yeah.
And Scott, thought I was a different guy. But they were like, no, this is Bob Chipman's brother. Oh, okay, then he'll be fine too. That's how it ended up working. This is my love letter to them, some of my best friends I've ever made in my life, and this is my love letter to you guys. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to talk about Blockbuster for a little bit. If you've never listened to the show, who's ever listened to my show? Oh wow, okay, cool. If you've never listened to my show before, some of the stuff Scott, Steve and Paul and Tim have already been on the show, so we might retread some ground because Michelle and my brother, and Steve, sorry, has been on the show too. Michelle and my brother have not been yet. But the whole idea, Paul's already been on it.
Yeah, but
he's been on it twice.
Yeah, but I've been on like every episode of your other show.
No, not Michelle and Bob. Bob and Michelle have not been on the Talkbuster podcast. Anyway, so without further ado, we're going to start this thing. And I just wanted to thank you all for being here, and I wanted to thank Cinema Salem for providing some passes for door prizes we're going to do after the show. I would like to thank Silver Moon Comics for door prizes, Opus Underground for putting on the show and also having door prizes and coming up with some awesome cocktails based on names. We got the Dropbox and Run the Tapes, which I wish I had some tapes so I could make all these guys run them. That was always fun. I hope you enjoy the stage, and also the Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, the last one on the planet, which gave us these shirts and also gave us those stickers. They've been on my show. They're amazing people.
Yeah.
And I wish they could be here today, but they're in Oregon.
Yeah.
Which is about as far as you can get from here without being in Alaska. Anyway, so without further ado, here we go. All right. Here we go. So. Wow, what a difference. Same time as me. Wow.
Yeah, I guess that.
Okay. You guys ready? Oh, and also, just so you know, we're going to play a game I created, Right Quote Wrong Movie. For anyone that's ever watched the podcast, we're going to play that after this. I printed it for the first time, and we're going to play it with you guys. Yes, and after that, we're going to do Q&A. That's what that microphone in the center there is for. So come up with questions that we may not have touched upon during this.
Center mic.
What was that, Bum?
Center mic.
Center mic.
Center mic.
Center mic.
Center mic.
I'm ruining my mohawk for you guys.
It's okay, there's enough glue.
That mic from No Effects would be very angry.
So when I do this, that means you've been yakking for an hour?
Yes, for an hour, that's right. All right, everybody, here we go. Wow, what a difference. The Talkbuster Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris Chipman, aka the Chippa from Twitter and the Talkbuster Podcast, as well as the Chipman Brothers Tangent, Shooting the Shit with Chippa, and the Creating Geeks Podcast with my wife Sarah, who's sitting right over there. Welcome to the first ever live recording of the Talkbuster Podcast. Woo! Thank you very much. I am joined here by the folks I worked with the very first time I worked for Blockbuster at the Salem, Massachusetts store, and we are in Salem, Massachusetts at Opus Underground. Thank you, Opus, for putting this on, everybody. I'm joined by my original store manager, Scott, my brother, Bob, Movie Bob Chipman, Michelle, who was one of the assistant store managers when I was there, and my store manager later on, Steve, also an assistant store manager, Paul, an assistant store manager, and Tim, who just worked there forever. I started at 17 years old as a lowly CSR, and I was way younger and couldn't work past 10 o'clock at night. That's actually how I met my wife, because she hung out with Paul, and she would show up at 10 o'clock at night, and I would hang out with her till they all got off at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you can put two and two together about what happened after that. Before... Steve.
That kind of babysitter.
Yes, Steve. What did happen after that, Steve?
I don't know.
Okay, then.
Why I asked.
Okay, then we'll just leave it at that. I am not going to elaborate, but we have 2 children, so woohoo! Before I start, I just wanted to leave, I've said this on my show before, but my father always wanted to be in radio. And I feel like podcasting, which my brother got me into by doing the Chipman Brothers Tangent, which eventually created this show, was kind of my spiritual way of doing what he always wanted to do. So I wanted to dedicate this today to my dad, Peter Chipman, because I feel like he wouldn't quite get what I was doing necessarily, but he'd probably be really proud of it. And he's not here today to join this with us, so I just wanted to do that. On my show, normally I promote, other podcasts. My whole outlook on this is I'm a small guy in a really, really big pond. So I want to talk about the people who I think are awesome and also contribute and benefit to my show. So I wanted to thank the folks at Cinema Inspection, Tim, who's on stage, and Corinne, for being here today and for also being great friends and letting me be on their show. I want to thank the people from the Pumpkin Copter cast right there, Tyler Gorman, who's sitting in the audience, the folks from the Geeks with Shields podcast, who are also out in Oregon and I think either Utah or Iowa. They have me on their show a bunch. The folks from Adventure Incorporated, the Dungeons and Dragons podcast, who I went to college with, a couple of them. It's wonderful. And the guy from Engaged Family Gaming, who I believe is planning on being here today, but I haven't seen him. But either way, thank you guys all that much. And for an ad read, you're all at Opus Underground. Enjoy their food, enjoy their beer, enjoy their mixed cocktails. We have the Dropbox. And what is it? What's the other one?
Run the Tapes.
Run the Tapes, which are Blockbuster-themed drinks. Enjoy those. Cinema Salem, who donated some stuff for the door prizes, who are right around the corner. If you want to see a movie, why go to AMC? Go to Cinema Salem. Silver Moon Comics and Collectibles, because they're the only good comic shop in Salem, Massachusetts. You should go there. They're amazing. Also, the Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, for donating your door prizes and your prizes from trivia, and also these awesome Blockbuster shirts that we're wearing, because all of our Blockbuster shirts have been burned and forgotten about. Even though I brought it back. So, anyways, so with that, we're going to start the show, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you guys have ever been to like a con, like Comic-Con or anything, I've never had this many guests on the show before, so I figured I'd do it con style and see how the room starts feeling and how the questions start going. So I figured I'd just go right to left. That's your left and my right, so stage right, with Scott, and start with where are you from? So we'll start with Scott Robbins.
I grew up in North Reading, but I live in Agawam, Mass now, right outside of Springfield, like 2 minutes from Six Flags. And just happy to be here, support my buddy.
Thanks, buddy. And Bob?
I'm from Lynn. I'm from where he is. So pretty much every.
I did not know that.
Pretty much everything he's gonna say is gonna match to me. But that's where I'm from. Yeah.
Other than Bob actually makes a living doing all of this online stuff, and you guys should follow.
I make money. Let's not go nuts.
Michelle.
Grew up in Danvers and currently reside in Peabody, so not far away.
Steve.
I live in Lynn.
Oh man, raised in Everett, Danvers, Georgetown, Beverly, diminished and went to the West, not necessarily in that order. Now I live in Keene, New Hampshire. It's a place, it's a thing.
He had a lot of
If you hit Vermont and get a nosebleed, that's kind of where I'm at.
Paul got out of work at 10 a.m. today to be here for this.
Let's not talk. Tim.
I grew up in Lynn and pulled off a daring and complicated escape, and now live in Salem, which I'm quite happy to.
Awesome, and I'm from Lynn, Massachusetts. Why did I work at the Salem, Massachusetts store? Because all of these folks worked there, and the Lynn store was scary. And I'm not talking about, culturally. I'm talking about Jesus Christ. It was just too damn busy. We went and helped them with inventories there, and, you'd have more stolen and lost and wrong films than you would. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Never. It's an auto parts store now. It was next to a Wendy's. I think that was the one saving grace, right?
Yeah,
It was,
right,
the
right.
Salem store had a Burger King and a Taco Bell and a McDonald's. The Lynn one had a Wendy's.
Yeah.
And also a Burger King and the McDonald's, and now a Taco Bell. And now a Popeyes.
It had the Taco Bell. It did have the Taco Bell.
It did have the Taco Bell. In fact, we would have the quesadilla eating contest, and that brings me to a point before moving on. I'd like to thank a couple of people that were part of this original group that are not here today, and I'm not going to go into why they're not here today, but spiritually they're here. I want to thank Jeremy Soltis for being part of this group. He was the king of the quesadilla eating contest from Taco Bell. He was a blast. He was also known for spending the majority of his shifts playing Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 2 in the back room.
Just to clarify.
And also not on his shifts.
Just to clarify, he's not dead. He's
No. He just there's
Didn't make it.
for some people this time was not as good to remember as others. So that and Casey Malone, who's out in California, we're part of our original group, worked at the store, and Andrew Connor, who I've had on the show. His episode will be releasing soon, and some others who we worked with later, who I plan on doing this again with. So again, I'm from Lynn. I worked in Salem because Bob worked there.
Yeah.
So starting back with Scott, why Blockbuster, and what video store did you rent from before you rented at Blockbuster or before you worked there?
Growing up as a kid, I rented a one-stop video. It was this small in a strip plaza. You walked in, all the movies would be on the counter. The store wasn't big at all. It was just a big bowling alley, and fond memories grabbing rentals growing up. And I worked at Blockbuster as a shift supervisor when I was in college and couldn't find a job out of school, and so continued to work there, and all of a sudden they gave me a store, and it was more money than I had ever seen as a 22-year-old kid, so that's how I got my start.
Bob?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think Salem Block was the first time I got paid to do anything. I think I interned at the Lynn Item for half a semester in high school because I had to for school credit. Didn't get paid for that, but this was just I wanted a job. I wanted some spending money, and decided that I should try at this video store. And they had a hiring sign up, and I applied, and I got it. And I was always big into films, film history. I was studying to go self-studying because there were no high schools offering good media classes where we were now, and it's changed. I think obviously now that's more of a thing. But I was trying to get into a film program in college, and so just watching all kinds of movies. Okay, I'll work in a video store. That seems to be a good thing to do, and I did. I met Tim. You were there when I got there, right?
Yeah, I'd been there for a little while.
Yeah, but I think I was there for 2 weeks, or at least a month or so before we actually encountered each other.
I think so. I think we just kept missing each other.
I worked, because you worked in the daytime and I worked at night, right? Or was it the other way around?
I think at that point I was still doing night shifts on the weekends.
Okay.
And I switched to days later.
Yeah, because, and just for the context here is that we now look like completely different people. But like at the time going in, we were very similar looking people. I didn't have a beard, he had hair.
It was beautiful, it was wonderful.
Yeah, and so we were very similar looking and had like, I don't know if similar temperament, but like, just movie encyclopedia guys, I guess. In the days before cell phones, that was considered like a magic trick. No one else had heard of like the Internet Movie Database, so this was like a thing. You just, oh yeah, an actor. Like this was those of you who came up after 1997. This will make no sense to you, but you couldn't just look everything in human history up. So knowing things just out of your head was considered like a very special skill. And so as I was going in to work in this place, I would be told that, we got this other guy here, and it's like the same guy. Now, we're not actually the same guy, but this is what I would constantly hear was, he was like, no, we got mistaken for the guy, when I was like, okay, so who is this other guy? And we would just keep missing each other by time, so then I finally ran into this guy, and I was like, oh, okay, shit, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, I see it. And we have been friends pretty much ever since, right? So probably going on 16 years, right?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
This is about that. This is about that. And the thing is, and as it turns out, we grew up maybe 2 miles from each other. There's no cosmic reason that we should not have met before we were in our 20s.
It just had to be
bizarre. No, it's really bizarre.
Inevitable.
Yeah, it's weird. Although maybe if we would probably been enemies or something. I feel like that might have been too close.
I hope not.
I don't know. No, not for a reason. It just seems like one of those things that would happen.
I do remember you used to get me in trouble though because Bob has some great movie taste, but not everyone agrees with it, and he'd recommend movies to people, and they'd come in the next day and start yelling at me, what did you mean by recommending that? I think there were a couple of Takashi Miike ones that did not go over well with some of the older crowd.
Well, no, it's because because I recommend to
Ichi the Killer is a children's film. What are you talking about?
It teaches them so much.
Well, because I was trying to amuse myself. This is
almost at the expense of my safety.
I didn't know. I didn't know these things, but you gotta have some fun with it there. You gotta. Otherwise, we're being all nostalgic about it now, but this really was a cripplingly dull environment.
Yeah.
With the, you asked what video stores we rented from before. I remember going into, where did we go?
Atlas Video?
Atlas Video.
Which is a hair salon
which is
on
a
Boston Street, Tower Hill.
Yeah, it's been an insurance company and a nail salon and just every little, but it was a hole in the wall. It was the bottom floor of someone's house. And one room and had just hundreds of videos, but it was it had that kind of seedy, grimy, good old school video store atmosphere where maybe you wouldn't get you'd never get the movie you wanted. This was Blockbuster's big innovation. They wouldn't have the a whole bunch of really interesting stuff, but they would have 700 copies of Analyze This because that's what everyone wanted to rent that weekend. But a real old school video store would have 5 copies of the new movie, and then they'd have all this old just whatever would fit on VHS, and you would always find this weird obscure stuff. That's the energy that I came out of. So that's just where my mind went. And Blockbuster was, we're nostalgic about it, but it's these cream-colored walls and the yellow and the blue and the fluorescent lighting, and just very kind of vaguely dystopian atmosphere to be in. So I had to make my fun where I could, and tricking unsuspecting people into. I was never dishonest. I never ever told people no, this R-rated movie is fine for your kids. I never trick you into renting porn. We
didn't have porn.
That was not something we could actually.
Red Shoe Diaries.
Well, no, but I never. I never sent a 7-year-old home with the Andy Sedaris movies or something. But I wouldn't censor it down for like, it's like, well, you know, maybe these people don't want to see the lesbian fish monster movie, but you know, which was an actual thing. That was one of the AIP remakes.
Oh, the Showtime creature.
Yeah. That was the mermaid thing with Carlo Gugino.
She creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, most of those were terrible. That was pretty good.
That was good.
That was pretty good. I ran off on a tangent. I'm sorry. Well, that's the answer to that. Michelle.
All right, so
How do you follow that up?
right? Renting videos growing up, I never actually did. Believe it or not until I started working for Blockbuster. I ended up in Salem because I wanted a fun job, and y'all looked like you were great people to work with.
She would also show up with apple pies from McDonald's that were fried instead of baked.
I did work for McDonald's as well. Yes, I would bring the food. I was the food girl.
Steve?
So growing up, I rented videos from Video Marquee in Peabody, where I grew up. Worked in Salem because Jeremy worked there, actually. And we went to high school together. Went in there one day and recognized him, and he was like, hey, you know, what are you up to, and whatever. He eventually said, you should get a job here. So we went up to the manager, and he was like, you should hire Steve. She was like,
Karen.
No, not Karen. This was Benita. This is before
Okay.
Karen.
Yeah.
All right.
And she was like, okay, well, when can you work? And I was like, well, I can work during the days. And so she hired me on the spot, and I immediately took Jeremy's day shifts, which he was very upset about. So he might have a little bit of, regret doing that.
That's the whole reason he's not here.
Yeah, that's it. That's the focus. Yeah.
Paul?
Oh boy. Okay. So Steve, how long have we known each other?
Since freshman year of high school.
Okay, so you normally recognize me on the street, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I told Jeremy I needed a job because I was in a place where I was no longer living with my family and there was a condition I had to get a job.
Mhm.
So I scrambled to get a job. Jeremy said, work with me. I said, okay. And I walk in, and I see this kid that I've known for how many years?
I think you have this story wrong, by the way.
I think I got it.
Go with it.
You're
Go
behind
with
the
it.
desk, and they're like, I'm like, oh, Steve. He's like, oh, you're that guy?
Thank you, Steve.
So I ended up interviewing, getting hired because Jeremy got me a place there. You were there, so you put in finally some good words for me because you realized what my last name was. That's what it was. You're like, I don't know.
I still think you remember this wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't remember it that way at all.
You don't remember being surprised that I showed up like, oh,
No.
it's that guy.
I think I remember
Such
being
a
surprised
stringent
that you-
hiring
I know,
process.
Right.
So,
But I don't think you. I don't think you
recognize
have
my
the story.
name.
I
I
don't
seriously
think-
don't think you're. Anyway, so supposedly, Steve didn't like that. Jeremy got me in. Steve seconded the notion, and the next thing I knew, I was working there with the rest of you guys, and still doing the nights, pretty much. And I was going to college, so I would work for the most part Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some of the weeknights. But that's what I did.
I will say that when I knew you in high school, you had short hair. You walked into
I
Blockbuster
did.
with shoulder-length hair.
Yeah, it was dyed red.
And it was dyed red.
I used to
so
have hair. Yeah, so it did look a little bit different.
Maybe I was shocked because of that.
That might have been. I didn't resemble anyone. Well, I mean, senior year, I still kind of had like over the year.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The first video store I started renting at was this tiny little hole in the wall in Swampscott called Video Perfection. Great little place. And I used to love perusing the horror section, finding the most bizarro, random horror movie I'd never heard of, and like, oh, I've got to see what this is. And then eventually, in Lynn on Eastern Avenue, another tiny little hole-in-the-wall store opened up that was just called The Video Store. And if you remember the video store from Clerks, that was pretty much it. And I eventually kind of finagled my way into a job there. And it was wonderful, I loved it, and eventually this other store opened up nearby in Salem, the Blockbuster, and put us out of business. So I ended up needing a job, I ended up working for the man. That's right, I sold out. And once I started there, it's funny because at the old video store, I could just, sit in a chair, watch Star Wars. Every once in a while, somebody would rent a movie. Blockbuster was a whole other experience for me, just running around, running back all the movies. I was super exhausted the first night. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this night after night? And yeah, it turns out I did, and worked there on and off until about from 1996 to 2006. In fact, my last day was one day before the 10th anniversary of me starting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
With a couple little bits off for trying to work at a newspaper. Boy, that was a disaster. And trying to work at like a Sam Goody, also a disaster. So
I remember the Sam Goody.
I'm trying not to.
Briefly.
Oh, Sam Goody. There's also Strawberries, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Coconuts, and Tower Records, and Virgin Records.
FYE.
FYE.
Yeah.
Oh,
Suncoast.
Suncoast.
There is still a Suncoast in a Philadelphia.
No, there is not.
Yes,
There's-
FYE, free, yes everything.
Supposedly there's still a Suncoast in a Philadelphia mall, and I've been this close to just going to Philadelphia sometimes.
No shit.
We should do that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't draw attention to it at the beginning, but this right here, sitting next to me, is the gumball machine from the Blockbuster in Salem, Massachusetts on 3 Traders Way. It still has the gumballs that we probably
It's
put
original.
in it. I bought it in 2013, sorry, when the store was closing.
Yeah.
And it still had the Carl and Ray gumballs in it. Everyone remember that ad campaign? That was 1999, 2000. So it's been in my basement. They're not in great shape, but I'm having everyone that I have on the show physically sign it, so that's why I brought it here. And it also has my nice logo up here.
I thought you were trying to give us all malaria.
Yes, sorry. Don't eat them.
Also, don't look at them, don't taunt them. They're very sensitive.
If they should sprout an eye, do not look to them.
Yeah, so this is my piece of memorabilia.
Do you
So
remember who the voices of Carl and Ray were?
it was
People
Jim
remember the-
Belushi.
And it was a rabbit and a guinea pig in a pet store across the street from a Blockbuster.
The weirdest ad
They
campaign.
had
Trying
us
to
like at a
imagine
special
People have
meeting.
so much fun.
They had a special store meeting at 1 in the morning where we all had to show up for it after closing so we could watch
Special
these
store
before everyone else.
Yeah, because it was this like debuted in the Super Bowl.
It was their Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
and it was like the most expensive ad they had ever created.
And it was Belushi and James Woods, so
Yeah.
definitely the cuddly people that you want
Yeah,
voicing
yeah.
your characters.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it was a Phil Tippett thing, as it turns out.
Yes,
No
it was.
shit.
Yeah, that was a Tippett Studios animation.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So those here, we've talked about it on the show before, but I like to bring up the gumballs. Those of you out there might say, "Oh, cool, gumball machine." We all cringe when we look at the gumball machine because, as weird as this is, these little gumballs were one of the highest money-making things that Blockbuster had going in the store.
Aside from your late fees.
Aside from the late fees, restocking fees, Paul, restocking
I was
fees.
there
It's
during the day
different.
of late charge.
So was I. So these gumballs, they paid like 1/4 of a cent each, and they cost you guys 25 cents, so that's a huge markup.
Yeah.
And we would do things like, oh, well, your hours for the previous year or the previous week would compare to your current year's hours, and then you'd be able to create your hours for the next week as like a percentage increase or decrease over that. So if you had a whole lot of people coming back from school or like wanting to run an inventory, you'd just have someone do the gumballs
Yep.
because the quarters had to be counted individually and scanned individually. And you'd always have the new CSR that
Oh,
started
yeah,
that
yeah.
week do it. It still has the register, the security tape stuck to the back of it. You guys can see it after the show. That would hold the back on because we lost the key. Same
Yep.
with the top here.
And the top always came off. No one
Yeah.
figured this out.
still had quarters in it when we got
It did. It still had quarters in it when I got it, and like I said, it still had Carl and Ray in there. So that's crazy. It is the gumball machine.
Do you guys remember when someone come like when the kids would get a gumball? And you're like, don't
Don't eat it. Oh, God, no.
They can hear the thing roll down. You're like, oh, someone's gonna lose teeth from that.
So, I mean, we all worked for Blockbuster for a decent amount of time, but I wanted, and Bob even left and came back, just like Jeremy left and came back. But I want to talk about Salem in particular, because you guys were all from Salem. So in the years we worked for Salem, what was your favorite movie that you can remember that came out while you were there? And again, this can be whatever. It can still just be the favorite movie ever at Blockbuster, whatever. But try to think about Salem at like 1999 to 2003 is what I'm thinking time frame before we all kind of got split up. Scott.
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction is a great movie.
Yes,
And that actually probably would have got released on DVD while we were there. Because, a reminder, when I started in 2000, 2001, we had one bay of DVDs. Everything else was VHS tapes. So you ran around running these tapes, VHS tapes. Think about like carrying before they had the carts because everybody's poor backs hurt. You'd run, as many you'd have it under your chin, double stack. We'd have contests. It wasn't as fun with DVDs, in my opinion. But Bob?
Gee, I wish I had known you were going to ask this. I would have
Give us a time frame.
Sorry.
looked up.
I mean, you just say your favorite movie that came out while you worked at Blockbuster. That's cool too.
Wow. See, the thing is, like during like the middle of that period, it's like when like probably Lord of the Rings when it came out. But I was at Suncoast at that point because I was like at San Goodin / Suncoast for a decent period in between my trips at Blockbuster.
Could also be like favorite release.
I really wish I had an interesting answer for this.
That's okay.
For like shit.
I remember when you worked there, American Beauty came out, and the big scandal was that we only got like 2 copies, but it was nominated for Best Picture.
Right, and then they sent a bunch more.
Yeah, finally, like a whole wall of it.
That happened with a couple things. That happened with Road to Perdition too.
Yes,
they
it
only
did.
sent a few because it hadn't done great in theater.
I thought it was something with the studio. They didn't want to play Blockbuster's game, and so Blockbuster was like,
Oh,
we'll just
right,
carry
yeah.
a few of your movie then.
Yeah, and then people found out it had Tom Hanks in it, and they had to get like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you know what was a fun recommendation? I remember this because I came back when because this was right when I came back the second time was when Brotherhood of the Wolf came out.
Oh, La Pacte de Loups.
Yeah, when that was like the like a first U.S. release, and that like got a good thing. That was fun.
That was fun recommending that to people.
Yeah, because like people realize like no, I know it's French, but it's not what you're thinking of when you think of like a French movie. You go, trust me, you'll get into it.
Who's seen Brotherhood of the Wolf? Who has not seen Brotherhood of the Wolf? Please find it.
Yeah, go
and then
go watch it.
send me on Twitter or somewhere what you thought of it. It is not what you think.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Cool.
Is that Mark Dacascos's best movie, Chris?
Yes,
do you think?
absolutely.
Is that his? It is.
Michelle,
I'm gonna say The Lord of the Rings.
always a good
Yeah.
answer. Actually, I had a Lord of the Rings gag that I had planned for the beginning of this, and I forgot to do it, so I'll do it at the beginning of the Q&A thing. Steve.
I'm going to have to say it's a cross between Session 9
Ooh.
and Pan's Labyrinth.
Ooh. Hey, who's seen Session 9? If you're from around here and you haven't seen it, see it.
See that movie.
It's a horror movie filmed at Denver State Mental Hospital before they renovated it. It's amazing.
It was filmed there?
Filmed there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Paul.
Ooh, see, I was at the movie theater when Lord of the Rings came out.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I would have to say one of the movies that got me there was one that Jeremy Brown brought to me when I was living in my house in Georgetown, which is Pecker.
Nice.
Which is
Pecker's a
amazing.
great movie.
Amazing. If you want to see like a hand puppet of the Virgin Mary that just screams full of grace, good thing to watch. There was Cecil B. Demented, which was just insane. But there was also like The Irrefutable Truth About Demons. It is a terrible horror movie, but it has some lines in it where you're just like, oh my god! And it's like one of the most quotable things ever. It's a B-rate horror flick, but it's if you're drunk, you can watch it just fine.
For me, it's tough because you're talking about like 10 years worth of
Right,
movies.
right.
So, a couple that spring to mind, and I swear I'm not trolling when I say this: Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I love that movie from the first time I saw it. Is that right? And 2 other ones that spring to mind: Ginger Snaps. I remember that was one of those,
That's a good
not quite Blockbuster
Yeah.
exclusives, but one of the ones they got a good deal on. And I recommend the hell out of that to everybody because I think pretty much everybody I recommended to liked it. And funny, one related to one that came up during the trivia question, Eve's Bayou, directed by the same director as Caveman's Valentine, Casey Levins, with Samuel Jackson. If you haven't seen it, definitely track it down. It's an amazing, amazing movie. That's another one that I found everyone just loved who I recommended it to.
And she has a new movie this year.
She does,
in a few
yeah.
months. She has the Harry Tubman movie, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm psyched about that one.
That was good.
For me, there was a lot of big movies during the time we worked there, and I loved the idea of the big movies coming out, and I know that seems like a corporate thing, the smaller ones. Like before I had come there, and I'll use Jeremy as a person to step off of here for the not corporate stuff. I know Tim isn't fond of it, but the Boondock Saints was a big deal. And for those of you that have seen Boondock Saints and didn't know, that was a Blockbuster exclusive. The only reason you could get that in the United States was because of Blockbuster. And we had 2 copies on VHS, and one of them got stolen. So that was a movie everyone came in looking for. Local director, local themed movie. If you haven't seen it, it's great little gangster movie about Boston, but not really filmed in Boston. But since Jeremy's not here, I'll bring up the Boondock Saints because that was his big thing, that he told everybody about. And he felt he was personally responsible for it being popular. Jeremy also
we did push it hard.
Jeremy also has convinced a lot of people that he was the creator of most things on the internet. So you gotta have to take a bit of a grain of salt with that.
He is big in Japan.
He's huge in Japan.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that when something happens with Anonymous, he goes, "Oh yeah, no, I had a WoW raid that night." Oh, I'm sure you did, Jeremy. Anyway,
He was out of town when that shit went
but
down.
for me, I remember things like Monsters Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Monsters Ball is a great movie. Do you know what I mean? It was a big push. Halle Berry was huge. Then we got boxes. Now you guys don't think about the behind the scenes. This didn't go down on a Friday night when the store was busy. On a Monday, all the tapes came in. And then on Monday night, Tuesday morning, we had to go around and rearrange the wall to get it ready for these movies. And the company was very specific about alphabetical, and it was a pain in the ass. But we would have fun writing on the boxes, what the name of the movies were. So we do things like if we got a copy of Labyrinth on it, we put David Bowie's Monster Junk, on the box. If you don't get that joke, David Bowie stuffed his pants. That's the whole.
He switches cod pieces.
Yeah.
And slightly insane.
We had all these boxes of Monsters Ball. And this was a harsh movie.
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing. I mean, there were lots of people that came back very angry at it because it was a very explicit movie in many ways. But it was a great movie. So we thought it would be fun. We wrote Halle Berry's Monster Balls all over the box. And I always remember that as being really damn funny. And seeing an entire wall of that movie and remembering what we wrote on the box always cracks me up. Also, The Mummy Returns. I think at the time we got more copies of that than any movie I had ever seen.
That was huge.
It was huge.
Massive.
And it is nowhere near as good as the first one.
No,
but
it's
that
not.
movie was just giant. Think about a Blockbuster now, and I talked to the people at Bend, Oregon. A movie like Bumblebee, they have to go out and buy all the copies of movies they put on the shelf. They don't have a store or a corporate thing they can call and get them. So they have to have deals with Walmart and Best Buy to put aside 10 copies of each movie that they can buy and put on the shelf. That's how it works. But still, for Bumblebee, they had 230 copies of that movie on their new release wall. And they were sold out of it on a Friday night. One store in the middle of nowhere in Oregon.
Well, it better be. Bumblebee was great.
It was great, but it's great that Blockbuster can still pull those numbers when they're dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, it was a camaraderie. I've said it on the podcast if you've listened. This is more about how much fun it was behind the scenes. We had fun working there. Do you know what I mean? It was an absolute blast. And we'll get into it. We had fun after hours. We had fun going out to eat, going out to movies after the show was done. The store was closed. Would it have been more fun to work at a place like RST Video, where you were just the one guy there and could kind of shit on the customers? We shit on the customers anyway. do you know what I mean? We had all of them. But it was just so much fun, and again, I hope you guys are getting that from this, and we'll keep going on the list. We just had fun being together. Steve and I, and Tim and I, Paul and I, everyone that have done this, we talk about, you look at the schedule and you wouldn't go, I gotta work tonight. It's, which one of my friends do I get to see tonight?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was never like a bummer. You know what I mean? Yeah, you'd have those nights where it's
There's
just
something
awful.
like, who am I going to have to clean up after tonight?
Who am I going to have to clean up after? Like Manager X, which those of you that haven't listened to the show, there was a person who was stealing from the company that we refer to as Manager X. We're just going to refer to her as that if it ever comes up.
I would have hair.
Yes.
I just
Snaggletooth.
Snaggletooth. There was also the store manager that came after Scott, who we refer to as fucking clown shoes, and we'll refer to him as that too. Fuck that guy. Anyway, that's when we all stopped working together. So this is an easier question, and Scott probably answered it already, but what's your favorite movie from the favorite section of the old stuff? Like something that Salem had that just like jumped out at you is like, oh man, I gotta recommend this to people, or oh, this was a great one to grab onto. And if it's still Pulp Fiction, that's fine, Scott.
Give me a second.
By the way, the favorite section were the old movies.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that Netflix would give you for free originally before they had streaming service for everything.
I need to think for a second.
Bob?
Go ahead.
Oh, wow. Oh man, I wish I had known what you were going to ask.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, off the cuff usually works.
That's okay. So, it didn't get to happen often, but I really liked getting people to rent Society.
There you go. Who's seen Society? Wow, of course Dan's seen Society. You should see that. Just don't even read what it's about.
Watch Parents first, then watch Society. It's like a pseudo sequel.
Bob would do these
Spiritual
wonderful
sequel.
things when he worked there, which I don't know if you guys knew this, but before Amazon, you'd have to go to like a Blockbuster or a local video store to find an old movie that you wanted to buy, because Blockbuster could still get them. And the VHSs were like hundreds of dollars because they were still rental price. Does anyone know that? That's how Blockbuster screwed over small places, is a small place would have to pay like $120 to Columbia to get a copy of a movie.
Yeah.
And then they'd end up paying it off by renting it. Blockbuster would just get it for the purchase price, but still sell it to you for $100 if you forgot to return it. That's how they did it on VHS. That changed on DVD. But you could go and buy like an old VHS you can't get anywhere else. So those of us that worked there would go and like, if you started buying weird stuff, like if you started buying like old Toho Godzilla movies and Takashi Miike movies, you'd start getting things for the favorite section that were a little bit more obscure sent to your store. Because Blockbuster, they profiled. They'd look at the area you were in. I mean, if you went to Lynn, there'd be a lot of Fast and the Furious ripoffs on the wall.
Yeah.
If you went to Swampscott, there'd be a lot of Jewish movies. They literally did this. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's what the company did. And
I worked in Swampscott, I can attest to
yeah.
that.
And also, my name was Chipman, but the old Jewish ladies loved me because they thought I was Chapman. It was wonderful. But Michelle.
I would have to say the Great Outdoors.
Oh,
that's
good one.
classic.
John
Yeah.
Candy,
Good
Dan
stuff.
Aykroyd. Wow. We had that in
We
Salem?
did.
Yeah.
We did.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
actually just on TV the other day too.
I love that freaking movie.
Feature debut for Annette Bening.
We call it
Yeah.
the Loon's Nest. Steve?
I'm gonna have to say Clerks. Like,
Yeah!
Really, well, whatever. Clerks.
Who's a Kevin Smith fan in here?
Me.
Yeah, we all are. That's kind of where that comes from.
37-year-old.
And those that are kind of iffy on him, I just did a director smackdown with the folks on Geeks with Shields, which you should all listen to.
Yeah.
They both didn't like Kevin Smith because they're a little bit younger than me. They didn't grow up with his movies, didn't see him kind of grow. If you start with Chasing Amy now, you're gonna think he's like, the most like socially unconscious person in the world. But at the time, that was a very progressive movie. Now it's kind of like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It was
Like
trying.
you don't understand people at all. But back then, that was a pretty progressive movie. So getting through the movies and kind of reminding these guys, watch them understanding the time they were made in, and it give them a better respect for him. But at Blockbuster, everything's Clerks. Forgot your keys. How many times did we say that to any asshole customer that went out the door? Forgot your keys.
I recommended that to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, a lot of people hated it.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure-
Dogma too. Dogma got people so angry. I love that Kevin Smith protested that movie.
Yeah, he protested his own movie.
He had to sign Dogma
Fantastic.
equals dog shit.
Yeah.
He showed up. Oh, we can't use language like that.
What was great about Dogma was it was so controversial in theaters, and then when they finally put it out to Blockbuster, they put a couple hundred copies on that was a huge rental thing because they got to put Matt Damon and Ben Affleck on the cover and just throw it up there, and people were just like, well, what is this? And then rented it, and
It's a sequel to Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. It did much better on rental than it did in theaters because they didn't bury it.
As most of his movies do.
How do you like them apples?
But our parents liked it, and they're not
Oh, my
mom loves
Mom
that
thought it
movie.
was Dogma, right, Mom? Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Paul.
Hi, Chris's mom.
Your father laughed at it too because it was because our father was our parents were a Protestant married to a Catholic, which was a big deal in their era. So Dogma was very, very funny to my father.
Oh yeah. Paul.
If we're gonna go with favorites, Orlando.
Oh.
Oh wow.
Tilda Swinton. That was good.
Orlando.
Virginia Woolf novel.
Yeah.
Definitely
Damn.
Film. Tilda Swinton. Really cool.
Tilda
You got
Swinton.
Tilda in drag, and you got the Queen of England who's a dude in drag. So
I remember far back when we actually had employee favorite shelves, which was always a great way to understand the psyche of an employee, seeing what movies they were into. I remember two that I used to recommend to people, and one of which I encountered there first the original version of The Wicker Man. That was the first time I'd seen it. And we had the good, complete cut of it, too.
Not the one with
the
Nicolas Cage in a bear suit kicking women in the stomach.
The
Not that
original
one.
Christopher Lee 70s one. I mean, we had one of the rare copies that was the full-on cut version. And Carnival of Souls, which I used to recommend to tons of people. And we were the only store, I think, in the area that had it on VHS. And that was another one that used to confuse a lot of people, unfortunately, but I loved it. But
Love Carnival of Souls. Okay, back starting with Scott. What's the favorite story you can remember working at Salem?
My favorite what?
Story.
We had to do inventories.
Right for that.
And we were all stone sober, and I was 17 and was drinking.
I wasn't the best role model as a young manager.
Mom, you might want to close your ears. Cover your ears, Mom.
She knows.
We did the inventories after we closed the store, and we decided we like to get the rental and the sell-through inventory done in one night. So maybe like 15 minutes before close, we would take all the Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, and whatnot out of the cooler, fill it with beers, get some snacks, have a good time. But it was just the camaraderie of us having a great time and getting to know each other and becoming more friends than the people you work with every day. So that's my story.
They paid me cash because I was 17 and I had to leave at 10 at night.
Yeah, that's totally not legal. Shush.
We didn't use last names here, except for me.
Yeah, and I'm the guy who adjusted the
And by
time
default,
clocks
Bob.
every Monday. Okay.
Bob?
Oh, I've got to think. Michelle, do you have one?
No, not yet.
Steve? I'm stumping them, ladies and gentlemen.
Favorite story? I'd have to say it probably came from one of the inventory nights. In fact, it might have been. So I didn't drink a lot growing up as a kid. You know, I wasn't.
Especially
someone
at
who went
6
to
years
parties.
old, not a big
Yes.
drinker.
No, not a big drinker at 6. But I didn't drink. I didn't go to teenage parties and
You were
get
geeks,
wasted and
like,
stuff. Yeah, I mean, my Saturday nights consisted of me playing Super Mario Brothers at home. So one of the inventories that I think he's talking about is they decided that they were going to make some rum and cokes. It was the first night I ever drank. It was maybe a week before my 21st birthday. Ooh.
Those.
I remember that.
I think this story comes from that night, but I'm not 100% sure. At the end of the inventory, we were all kind of towards the back of the store, and there was I think we had to destroy a bunch of Blair Witch tapes,
Oh, yeah.
and we were standing around like a pile of them.
Blair Witch 2.
Was it Blair Witch 2?
it was the Blair Witch 2 Massacre. You stole one.
Ah.
It's like instant those are lit on fire.
2 in the morning or something like that. I don't know. It's wicked late, and we're just standing around there. They were talking about something. I show up, and you turn to what was his name? What was his name?
Rich?
His name? Rich. Thank you. Couldn't think of his name. You turn to Rich and you just go, "Get him!" And Rich looks at me and starts chasing me through the store. I think I'm drunk at this time. Yes, I'm tired. I have no idea what's going on, right? So I run full tilt towards the front of the store, and I run through the vestibule door, and the last thought that goes through my mind was, the door on the other side of this, the one that leads right to the outside, is locked. But I couldn't stop myself. I hit the door full speed. I think I cracked a tooth. I still don't know why you had him chase me.
Because it was funny.
I guess.
We're always playing tricks on you.
Steve was very jumpy.
Tim
I
tried to
was
scare you.
I was very jumpy. Yeah, Tim would get me every day. When he was there.
It's funny. I do remember somebody that night trying to light some of those Blair Witch 2 tapes on fire. It might have been. Was it Jeremy?
It was me and Jeremy.
I remember that.
I was elbow dropping, and then we found a hammer in the back room. We were
Yeah.
beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
We were
It got
using him as
kinda
frisbees.
Yeah.
And I think another small anecdote that I remember is one day I showed up. I came to get my paycheck. You were standing near the back office, and you grab the fire extinguisher, and you're just like, and you spray it all over the place. I'm like, what? You're like, I've always wanted to do that.
It's a very inappropriate workplace.
It was very inappropriate.
Our store did have the best numbers in the district.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And that's why they split us all up, because they thought we were stealing. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't work in retail, the corporate definition for the word shrink, you ever heard that word?
Yeah.
Is employee theft. So there you go.
I found this out from my friend's dad, who's a professor at BU. I was like, no, shrink. And they're like, did you just say shrink? That's employee theft.
So no matter what, it's your fault.
You get the movies for free. What? Like, but, oh man, I don't know. So should I do the... Well,
Whatever you want, dude.
The toiletry story is so inappropriate.
Toiletry.
So it's okay. Tell the toiletry
Tell
story.
the toiletry story.
That's really good, though.
Tell them both.
Okay, so we'll start with the one that Scott was there for. So it was one of those inventory nights where Scott was scanning through all the soda, which was right in front of the register that we used. And so I'm sitting there, and Scott's doing his thing. He's next to me. He's going up, he's scanning stuff, and going back and forth. And we had a customer who always lied about how late her movies were. To the point where she walked in, put them through the thing. We looked at her. I'm like, oh, good, it's her. And then she came back, and immediately we ran over, like, boop, okay, $12. Boop, okay, another $12. And she's like, that's not late. I'm like, really? And we just watched you drop that off. And she's like, no, it's not late. I'm not paying $12. I'm like, and her daughter is standing next to her, and she goes, Mom, that was on the coffee table for like 3 months. We just put that. So she smacks her daughter in the stomach. And she was like, "Argh!" And I'm like, oh, it's on. And so she sits there and she's like, you're gonna take that away. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's a late. She's like, I wanna talk to your manager. I'm like, all right. So then I spun around, because I had manager on my name tag. I'm like, oh, look, I'm the manager. No. And then she's like, I wanna talk to you. She turned around and said, you have those 16-year-olds in here that work here and they steal the movies and I don't. I'm like, number one, there's one 16-year-old. He's a very good friend of mine. Number two, no. And she's like, I want to talk to your manager. Who do you answer to? I'm like, God. And he's sitting right next to me. She's like, I'm like, what did you say? I'm like, Scott. And Scott just kind of looks over his shoulder because he's in like a t-shirt and jeans. And he's like, no. And he goes back, I'm like, sorry, that'll be $12.97 or 24, whatever it was for her. But the toilet treats one is one that'll probably get me in a lot of trouble.
Scarred for life.
So, okay, couple things. We had cameras that looked out at the front in the back room. Number two, these two. So we're going through movies. We didn't have an adult section. That never seemed to stop our customers from returning the wrong movies in the right case. So,
Little Mermaid often came back in the Red Shoe Diaries.
Was it a kids movie? I don't remember what it came back in. But we open it, we're going through, and Steve's like, you're going to toilet treats. So I'm like, oh. I'm like, hey Steve. He's like, what? I'm like, I bet you $10 it's this time. He's like, no, I bet you $10 it's a straight movie. And I'm like, okay, let's go and find out. So we go back. We're like, Chippa, take care of the front register. So he's over there.
This
he's
always
checking out
happened to
customers,
me.
right? We go in the back room. I pop it, and Steve's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I hit play, and I'm like, hold on. I dial the intercom. I dial Chris. And I got the TV monitor out. I'm like, okay. And I hold the phone receiver up to the TV monitor. So when Chippa picks up the phone from the back room, thinking that it's one of us calling him,
What am I hearing?
Paul was right.
he splits it down and like, yes.
Right. So that makes me think what other people are thinking of my favorite story from Salem, which is when Scott put on the part in Clerks where Randall orders the porn on the direct TV and took the remote to the back room with him and left it with customers. Thank you.
How about we had two people decide or figure out that the DirecTV had the adult channels there because they unlocked everything?
The Bear Wench Project.
So I go back, I'm counting down the doors. I come out with the money. We have a wall of glass, ladies and gentlemen, and it is looking directly at the TV. There are people returning shit, and I've got two CSRs staring at like softcore on a, what's it, 37-inch TV. I'm like, what the fuck? Turn that off! Run tapes! You know,
Awesome.
That was fun.
Tim?
Steve took one of mine because it was the Blair Witch Massacre, although I do remember the month I tried to scare him one day for all of the month of October, so 31 times. I got pretty close. I almost got you.
31 days of terror.
But
Also, never get in a
I
staring
was
contest with
very
Tim.
jumpy.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but he could scare me at the drop of a hat.
It
Even
made
if I
working
knew he
so
was
much
right
fun.
there. I just head down doing paperwork. Or
I got you
something.
2 in a row once. It was
Yeah,
incredible.
and he would just come up behind me and be like, "Steve," and I'd jump.
Once when you were
Right out of my
holding a
shoes.
stack of movies, it was glorious.
Yeah.
The big one that comes to mind though was when we used to have the video games in these plastic cases, and there would be a little kind of beige luck that went on top, and the ones of these long thin plastic things. And we decided we were going to play Jenga with them. So we stacked a whole bunch of them up and kept going and kept going. We got it a good 4.5 feet, and customers just keep coming up, and we're just 1 second. Okay, and eventually we started to run out, and people are like renting games. Like, great, thanks. Put that on top. Yeah, 1 second. This is a tricky move. And I can't remember. We got it around 5 feet before it finally collapsed. And we actually had a couple customers who just hung around and watched for a little while. I think they started taking bets like, he's never going to get that out there.
Some of our customers were amazing. Like, we used to have customers that would come in, and you knew they're going to hit you with a bullshit line of why their movie was late. But we liked them so much that they would come up with stuff. And you're just like, okay, you gotta pass. Like, I had one lady who's like, she's sitting there with her boyfriend, and she's like, honey, you're late. And it's like a week wait. Well, I have to tell you, we were in the car, I had the movies in the car. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good one. And she's like, and we got pulled over by the cops, and apparently he has a warrant for himself. And the guy's like, what? And they impounded the car, we couldn't get it back for like 3 weeks, and so we're here, I'm like, whatever, pass, go. Like, that's amazing, go. The best part about it was her was we had a customer that was really like vigilant before that. And they were just a total jerk. Like, I'm giving up my membership. So they held out their card. I took the scissors out the door. I snipped it in their hands. And
Maybe we were.
I got in trouble with that one. But she said, I'm like, okay, whatever. And she's behind going, oh my God, Blockbuster's going to have to close because Saul's left. Like, she's being a bitch to this guy. And I'm like, thank you. Like, and now all of your rentals are free. Like,
Back around.
Sorry.
So Bob?
Okay. I have 2. I have 2 short ones because these are these are the only 2 I can think of that are like PG-13 that are like
That's okay if they're R-rated.
They're not. So
It's okay if they're X-rated.
no, it's not.
Steve wants them to be X-rated.
Toilet treats has already been discussed. So, again, preface, I started doing this when I was like a teenager. Like I was in high school. I think I was like a sophomore in high school. So, an actually immature person who is still in fact very immature. And at 35. I'm actually older than 35 now.
I'm 35.
no, you were not.
Well, I feel 35, so.
I met all them when I was 17.
Yeah. So in any case, I'm here as like a high school sophomore. This is like, the first. Any other work stuff I've done has been, not interacting with the public in any meaningful way. And on nights that were not weekends, people would come in and they would want to like chit chat. They would come in and it would be like, older people would take trouble. And I was like, so what's the new movies this week, son? And you just wanted to like, throw back and forth and like, hey, how's the weather? Again, pre-chat rooms, pre-social media, people like just randomly spoke to each other.
You sounded just like the porn magazine guy in Clerks.
Yeah.
It's like, do you guys have any of that 2-ply toilet paper?
Yeah. And people are
I
like
got the
nostalgic
hemorrhoids.
for this thing, but it was actually very irritating to me. And
Actual interaction.
but I'm like, so I'm making chit chat with like this, nice other people. It's like, oh yeah, we had this movie come out, it was pretty good. I think Tom Hanks, I think like Notting Hill or some bullshit. I don't know. So, and I'm just sitting, just going back doing, the spiel because I'm trying to be a very good employee because my manager is on duty. And I forget, it's not anyone here. I think it was a guy named Chris who also worked there. Not my brother, another guy named Chris. And I'm just sitting there doing my thing. And as these people are walking, in comes another customer behind them who I don't know what is the appropriate language for describing this young woman who was older than me there, but not by much. But like, just goddamn, would have been like the only words to like use this language. I'm talking, like 6'2", perfect measurement. Just Jesus H Christ. Like, I mean, I don't mean to be a pig, but like literally, it was like looking at the sun. Like you couldn't look directly at her, for all I knew. So like literally, I'm sorry, and everyone else noticed because the entire store, noticed this person walk in. It was, again, it's a video store on like a Tuesday night in like a strip mall in Salem, Massachusetts. You do not expect like a goddamn supermodel to come walking in. And the couple I was talking to certainly knows, but so I'm talking to Notting Hill, Tom Hanks, and Hugh Grant, out of my mouth comes, wow. just out loud, walks, walks out of earshot of this young woman, of course, because I'm not an idiot. I mean, I was an idiot, but I was like not that much of an idiot. There was a little bit of wow. And now, obvious reaction. Now, meanwhile, this jerk off behind me, who's working in the store as well, decides to go bomb and just whacks me right upside the head with one of the tapes for some reason because he's so appropriate. Now, and I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like he was like, yeah, don't do it again. Like, he wasn't even a manager. He was just a little older than me. So it all goes back to normal. As returning back to normal, the older guy, they go back towards the thing. The husband, who's with the woman, I assume, turns around toward the thing. And he was just like, no, but seriously, wow. Which then made me feel a little gross because this guy was like 70. But he was right. A story that makes me sound like slightly less of a pig is that we had this cardboard tower monstrosity in the center of the store, which was I forget, it was a promotion with like a wheel on it. You were like supposed to turn. It was like
I remember that.
A cardboard pillar that had a cardboard wheel that they would turn, and it would like do a prize or something. And it was very stupid. Like now, I'm sure it would have like an iPad in the middle of it or something. But it was very dumb.
Was that before or after the Pokemon Snap machine?
This was before Pokemon Snap. This was before Snap. And we all hated it because we always had to put it back together because it would fall apart at a moment's notice, and the kids would pick at it. And like within a month of it being up there, it was all falling apart, and it was just the most irritating damn thing. So by the time it was time to get rid of it, we were so glad to be rid of it. I remember it was either me and Tim, or does this sound familiar to you at all?
I remember the machine. I don't think I was involved in what follows.
Okay, so this might have been me and Jeremy because we were ordered to dismantle it and take it out of the store. By which the manager who was on there, who was not like one of the cool managers, was just like one of the managers, one of you who wasn't there for long, just said take it out, break it down, which just means take it apart because it's just cardboard, and put it in the dumpster. Okay, break it down. Now we also had these big hard cardboard tubes, which were like part of it somehow. So as we were going out towards it, we happened to be towards it, and we both kind of noticed we were holding the tubes. We had the thing in front of us, and somehow it both occurred to us at the same time, just looking at the things and going. I go, it must have been Jeremy because I feel like this is the only sort of thing that I would have told you. I said, Jeremy, dude, trial by stone. For those of you who've seen The Dark Crystal, you know that there's this part where they have to decide who's king, and the way they decide who's king is they both take big swords and whack, and they just whack a big piece of rock until see who knocks the bigger chip out of it, because they're supposed to be brutish and dumb. So that's what we did to this big piece of cardboard, which turned out to be a little more resilient than we thought it was. So it took a lot more harder wax, and we got maybe a little more into it than we thought we did. I think there can be only one was said by someone. The manager was not happy, and we then just had to take it outside and then put it in the dumpster. But for a minute there, we were, I forget who won.
Who was emperor?
Yeah, I don't know. I forget. I think it was Jeremy. I think it was. He was bigger than me at the time. Yeah. So that happened.
Chamberlain.
Oh shit, that's a week away, dude.
A week away
Yeah,
from the
away.
new Dark Crystal.
Oh, that's yeah.
I make no money by saying that, but I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Michelle?
So I do vaguely remember we had an opening manager that nobody really liked. Said person used to leave all sorts of boxes and stuff for us to take out at night because they were lazy.
Yeah.
And one night we got a bright idea to go, so our store was in a plaza with a supermarket across the street. And we got a bright idea to go and buy some lobsters and let them run around loose in the office when she opened in the morning.
No, you did not.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god.
Oh,
She was not very happy.
no,
But
that
that might have
she
been her last
deserved
day,
it.
actually.
Really? What happens to the four lobsters?
I'm pretty
You're
sure
probably
somebody
scarred
had
for the rest of their
yeah,
life.
for-
Encounter with her.
They were
Were
fine.
they still
They were
alive
fine.
when
They,
she got
they
there?
set them free in the ocean.
We set them free.
Yes, we set them
We
free.
set them free.
That was like the chickens that were labeled 1, 2, and 4 on a 3-story building for your senior prank at St. Mary's Pub.
Yeah.
Whoever has the 3rd chicken, please deliver it to homeroom, no questions asked.
Yeah, I would love to take credit for that, but that was not my idea.
No.
That was
Did we forget anyone?
I think we got everybody.
Oh, that one cool. Just making sure this. I'm losing my mind. It's so much fun. So here's another cool one. So Halloween in Salem is awesome, and the Blockbuster in Salem is a bit on the outskirts, so we kind of would have buses of people dropped off that would then bus themselves into downtown. But does anyone have any good? And we don't have to go through everyone. Does anyone have any good Halloween-related stories
I have
from
one.
working in Salem?
I do remember for 1 year we had a promotion where they were repackaging all the old horror movies, and we got this 6-foot Michael Myers cardboard standee. And this thing freaked me the fuck out because anytime I'd be working out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh, there's somebody there. Hi, can I help you? Ah! Every time. I kept moving it around the store, trying to put it somewhere where I'd see it more often, but it kept doing it. I thought, maybe this was Steve planning some kind of diabolical revenge on me.
Steve did get him back, by the way.
Yes, he did.
He dressed up like Pyramid Head from Silent Hill and hung out in my basement when Tim showed up one night.
I have not jumped that much.
I have a good Halloween story. So me and Scott were closing. You know the story.
Scott's already like,
And this, I don't know, it's around Halloween time, and there must have been a scavenger hunt that, you know, a group of people were doing or
They
whatever.
kept doing those all over the place there.
Yeah, and so this group of scavenger hunt pull up in like a limousine or something, I don't remember, and all these girls get out. They come in and they're like, we need to speak to the manager. So I point him to Scott because I don't want to deal with him, because at this point I have no idea what's going on, right? I point him to Scott because I don't want to deal with him. And they're like, we need to get a picture of, we're doing a scavenger hunt, we need to get a picture of a, you know, I think it was just the manager or the store manager of a Blockbuster or something like that. And so they all gather around, and like, you know, all these pretty girls are all hanging all over Scott and stuff, and they're taking pictures. They leave, and I'm like, dude, Scott. Now, I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, I wasn't married. I'm like, dude, there's got to be another group out there. The next group that comes in, I'm the store manager. Right? And he's like, sure, whatever. So, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes go by or whatever. The next group of people come up, right? I think I'm in the middle of running tapes, and I just see out of the corner of my eye, like, just the grossest bunch of guys walk in. One of them's dressed like Dracula, there's like a Frankenstein, and I swear to God, a man dressed in nothing but a diaper. and they're like, we need to speak to the manager, and he's like, that's the guy. Oh man, come on, you get the hot girls, I get the man in the diaper.
so good.
Somewhere out there, that picture exists.
Any of you guys have a good Halloween-related one? No? All right, I got another good one. So we don't work for Blockbuster anymore. Video stores are pretty much dead as it is. But if there was a movie that's come out since you worked there, or a movie that's come out recently, that you'd actually be excited about being there to rent to people at a store, what would it be? Anyone can start.
Actually, we just finally caught up with that movie Serenity. I would love to see people's reactions. Yeah.
Not the Joss Whedon.
Not the Joss Whedon one, the Matthew McConaughey one. It was not at all what I thought. I would love to see what people's reactions would have been if we recommended that to people.
I would love to see how many copies of either Hereditary or Midsommar we'd be getting, because I'd have so much fun renting those to people. Oh yeah, it's great. You're gonna love it.
I cannot think of a better answer than Serenity. I'm so jealous of you thinking of that.
Anyone else?
Who saw Serenity?
Correct.
Okay, crazy. Yeah. I'm not gonna. No one say anything about it. Just it's got Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway and
Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke, is it like good cast? Yeah, really good cast. Diane Lane is in this. Diane Lane is in this for the thing, and he's like a fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like just go rent it. Go look it up. It's got to be on Netflix at this point.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Is it like free on Amazon?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Is it like free? Yeah. Track this down. Watch it. Don't read anything about it. Don't look up reviews. Don't like search it on Twitter. Just watch it.
You don't want it spoiled.
Watch it start to finish. Just watch it start to finish. This was one of the best experiences of my year as a film critic, was being in a press screening with just other press people, watching this playing out, and just seeing a theater full of critics every 15 to 20 minutes just looking at each other going, are you fucking kidding me? Is this the movie? Did they put in another movie? Did something happen? What the shit is this?
Yeah, dude, it's completely bonkers.
It's amazing.
It's pretty wonderful, yeah.
Should your mother watch it, Bob?
I mean, yeah,
You'd probably like it, Mom.
What?
You have your Amazon Prime?
You do have my Amazon Prime, but watch Simple Favor first, because that one you will like unironically.
Okay, so here's another one. So those of you that maybe didn't live through the time when Blockbuster was huge, which was like 1999 to 2005, it was just unbelievable how over the top, giant, not even joking, a tiny little store. You think, maybe you rented there in like 2008, 2010 when it was smaller and less. We on Friday night from 4 p.m. till midnight, which is crushed. And the company knew this, and so they knew that you'd make more money off of stuff other than just the rentals. So there were a lot of fun promotions. And I wrote down a couple of them, but I don't remember if you guys remember any. But do you guys remember the movie Castaway?
Yes.
Do you remember how everybody and their mother for a long period of time would have like things on their antennas of their car?
We had them.
They had a Wilson
Wilson.
ball as the antenna thing. People loved this. We couldn't keep them in the store.
Yeah.
People loved them. We also had Shrek ears. That like the whole crew wore. For video game releases, back when the company actually took stock in video games being a big money maker for rentals, because remember, you're paying $60 a copy for these games, not getting any special deal like you did with the movies. Like, for instance, there was a sequel to Ghosts and Goblins that came out on the PlayStation 2 that for some reason, Maximus, right? The Blockbuster thought this would be the biggest thing ever. We got like 80 copies of it and all had to wear polo shirts that had like the name of the game on them. It was crazy. But do you guys, anyone in the list, remember anything that I'm forgetting?
I got one.
Yeah.
When There's Something About Mary came out, I remember if you pre-ordered it, you got a little version of the stuffed dog in the cast. And it was kind of adorable. I also remember with those Wilson balls, when we had so many of them left over, we just started throwing them at each other for a while.
I remember the promotions that when Spider-Man came out, that we gave away an actual life-size Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah,
Or
Yoda,
Star Wars and
Yoda.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Spider-Mans got stuck? The ones that they were going to give to people were not the ones that were on display in the store. They were like stuck on a barge somewhere off the coast of the U.S. because this was like right after 9/11 and it was impossible to
There
in.
was a lot of Spider-Man shit going on with 9/11. Does anybody know the story of the original Spider-Man trailer? So for those of you that didn't know, the very first trailer that came in theaters for Spider-Man had him putting a web between the two towers and catching a helicopter. And we had a video, I think it was either what was it, Mummy Returns?
I think it was Knight's Tale. I think.
Knight's Tale,
Yeah.
yeah. We had to send all the copies back, and though some of us kept them. But they had that trailer on it. And there was also like the Family Man had the two towers on the cover, all those cover boxes had to get returned. There was...
Sorry, I was just
No,
going
go
to say
ahead.
someone released that on the internet recently.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in
It was a
Yeah.
great trailer. I mean, how else do you build Spider-Man more iconic than that, right? And I have a couple other things. We're getting near the time for this first section with the podcast, but Thank you.
Did you really not include Pokemon Snap?
I just talked about Pokemon Snap earlier. Do you want to talk about it again?
Well, no, but like that was like probably like the
go for
the
it.
biggest like Blockbuster promotion thing that was like done was there was this game where all you did was take pictures of Pokemon and on
they had the printer.
N64, and you could go in and you could print out picture, like literally it was basically like a gun game, but instead of shooting them, you took photos of them, and then you would go into Blockbuster and put your game in and print out little stickers of the pictures you'd taken, and they could not keep those stickers in the store. And like that kiosk stayed in there for so long, they put another Pokemon game in it.
Yeah,
Just because
Pokemon
of-
Stadium.
Yeah,
ended up-
Stadium stayed in there for a thing, and that was like the hugest thing.
I remember one time there was a back hallway, kind of like, like every store in a plaza has a hallway leading to the back.
Yeah.
That's
You
where we
mean-
shoved that thing after it was
You mean the
stored.
fire escape?
Yeah,
The fire escape.
Yeah.
But ours was full of junk.
Yeah.
And someone actually broke in the back door, didn't break into the full store, even though that other door we kept unlocked because we probably didn't have a key.
Yeah.
And they just stole the Pokemon Snap
Yeah.
machine. That was it.
And people are still so big
Rebuilding those.
on that. That is like still like one of like the things people remember the most about all this stuff is Pokemon Snap, and they never made another one.
No, they should. So, as a store, we went out a lot. We could say, rest in peace to the Denny's in Danvers, which we and the people
Occupied every single.
occupied every
Yeah,
Friday and
that's
Saturday
why the
night,
sun came up.
along with the people coming out of Rocky Horror at Hollywood Hits. It was just us. We had our own little section. They pushed us away from the rest of the crowd because even us and them were too weird for the Denny's crowd until in the morning.
Not to mention the Laser Quest crew.
The Laser Quest crew. Oh god, anyone ever done a lock-in at Laser Quest? It's fucking awesome.
It's an lucky to fix it.
Yeah, all-nighter. That's the sweat. But what I was gonna say is, everyone going down the list. What's a favorite memory from something we did outside the store? Scott?
I think just we were so kind of obsessed with Kevin Smith a little bit and kind of what he put out, and so when Jay and Silent Bob came back, I think we might have seen it 6 or 7 times.
At least.
And just overanalyze it, every word that was said, the cameos, how it played into all the previous movies. So
So Hollywood Hits was an last run theater. They got the old movies for a while before they became a first run. So that was the dollar movie. Played at 1 a.m. because they knew their crowd. It was either people that were really, really stoned or us, who partially were also really, really stoned. And we'd go see Jay and Silent Bob at 1 a.m. So we went as a group. That was actually when I was dating my wife the first time. We all went together. We saw this movie so many times. And Steve has a very good memory from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, if you want to share that with the crowd.
All right, so who's seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
Most of the
Most
room.
of them.
I've seen half
There's
of
I
it.
remember seeing it.
There's a scene in the movie where there's this group of women and they're going in to do the
Jewel
like
heist.
a jewel heist, yeah. And is it Ali Lauder?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, Ali Lauder plays one of the thieves. Okay, so there's these laser beams that they have to get through, right? The typical like James Bond type thing where you have to, step over and be careful and everything. And all these women are like doing flips and acrobatic tricks trying to get through the lasers and trying to one up each other. And Ali Lauder is the last one to go through. She gets through the maze of lasers and she does this weird pose where she puts her hand up in the air and everything, right? Like all triumphant and shit. And just rips the loudest fart you've ever heard. And for whatever reason, at 2 a.m. or whatever it was,
Funniest thing I've ever seen.
the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Fell out
I
of his
fell
seat
out
into
of
the
my seat.
hallway. And we tried it again at home. Steve had this couch and a giant 60-inch old-fashioned flat screen TV
With the big back.
that was 2 feet in front of the couch, and we showed it to him again and he still fell off the couch.
To this day, it still cracks me.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about it either.
It's just perfect timing
Tickled
on the
my funny
joke.
bone.
That skeevy stoner was right. Fast food really does make girls fart. Bob?
Oh wow, just doing the inventory things was just wild. and going to the Denny's was wild. This was, like the first time I was, first like job, teenage kid. So just like hanging out with work people was just nutty. That was probably just, fun. I think, by the time I had moved on to like another store and do other things was when Chris was working there, and then you guys were doing more of the going to movies and news. By then I was like assistant managing a Suncoast, which was its own whole other thing on like a different scale. Because I was in college by then,
Right.
So like a different whole different run of scheduling. And then there was a time when I wasn't working anywhere for a while, and I would just come in and just hang out. Mostly Tim had gone back to work there, and I had nothing else to do, so I would just like come and hang around and bother my friend Tim, because like he literally could not get away because he was like at work.
I remember setting up the wall for the new releases the next day, and you'd be kind of following alongside, and be having some really intense political discussion about the Middle East, and customers just staring at us. And sometimes unfortunately, they'd get involved, which could get kind of messy.
Yeah. That was probably really annoying sometimes, so I am sorry about that. But like not
We all
very.
did it to each other.
But not very.
It's not just you. The Denny's thing, the inventory thing reminded me of one thing, and you can listen to the show. We go in more depth on, I think we've repeated this multiple times, but there was a time we left empty bottles all over the new release wall and realized about 8 a.m. at Denny's, because we had been there since 3, that we left them all there, so we had to get back in Gorilla, get rid of them all before the opening manager showed up.
Well, at first we're like, let's just leave it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, but it's manager X.
Yeah.
So like fucking ninjas.
Michelle?
Yeah, so I think same with Bob, going to Denny's after inventories. I remember pulling an all-nighter the night before I actually graduated from college, because we had inventory, and then we went to Denny's, and then I went to graduate.
Oh, Jesus.
All in succession, so.
My favorite were the 2 or 3 times we went to Six Flags.
Oh, yeah.
It was the first big roller coaster I actually ever went on in my life, because they scared the shit out of me. And these folks convinced me to go on it. We all bought Superman shirts. Scott and Alvin are in the front seat, which Alvin's a guy I forgot to mention. I'd love to get him on this too.
Yeah.
Alvin Brown.
Alvin Brown.
Scott and Alvin had Superman shirts on and sat in the front. And has anyone ever been on Superman at Six Flags? It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
They sat in the front. It's the largest drop of any coaster on the East Coast at the time, anyway. And they hung over, and I'm in the cart behind them. And Jeremy's sitting next to me. And Jeremy's like, "Don't worry, Chris. I've been on this before. I'm the biggest wuss in the world. It'll be fine." And we start. Jeremy's sitting next to me, and he goes, "Hey, Chris, I just want to let you know I've actually never been on this. I'm scared shitless right now." Jeremy, that's not very funny. And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Da-na-na, dun dun dun." I'm like, "Jeremy, da-na-na, dun dun dun." Well, you understand? And we get to the top, and he goes, "We're gonna die!" And Scott and Alvin are in the front. Yeah! With their hands over the front. And I immediately got back in line and went on again. And it was wonderful, but I was scared shitless. But that was one of my favorite times. We'd go to the water park. We'd meet up at. One time we were all in Salem, we went again, we were all in Woburn, or a large quantity of us were in Woburn. But those are some of my favorite out-of-the-store memories. Steve?
Yeah, I guess I would just have to say, hanging out outside of work, anytime we hung out was just a ball, Inventories definitely were a huge thing. I actually looked forward to those.
Me too.
It was a lot of, repetitive work, scanning the movies over and over again, late at night and stuff, but just fun times.
Did you know Blockbuster today still uses that same blue screen?
Oh.
Yeah, you told me that.
They bought all the old ones as corporate was closing, and they have a warehouse full of them, and they just keep cycling them in. And the guy that was Blockbuster IT, who I've had on the show in Texas, is still, through his consulting company, still does IT for the store, because he remembers how all the systems work. I think that's what, that old terrible blue screen.
How about those scanners?
Oh, the scanners.
Roll them out.
We would actually extend them. Remember this? You ever seen a register? We would actually have to extend them to the store, and then you'd get. Oh, yeah, we forget.
250-foot.
We forgot Titanic was the one that never printed right, so it can't be scanned. Steve, type this number in. Okay, 3325032.
Oh wow, those numbers.
Paul.
I would say the inventories, the times that we were, 1, 2 in the morning, we'd get out and just be like, let's go to Denny's, let's have a great time, watch the fucking sun come up, go home, sleep for like 4 hours, then do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'd often open right after inventories, or have a store meeting right after inventories.
Yeah, those were always fun.
I think Jeremy is still, NASA's still calculating his tab.
Yeah, Jeremy would always end no matter who he was at. So you're gonna get that, right?
And for some reason we did it. No questions asked.
Because we just wanted to be with Jeremy. He was awesome.
You know, I was like paying for the entertainment.
Yeah, that's true.
For me, this summer we all got together to make a zombie movie.
Yes.
We made a little short movie, and being the pretentious budding young filmmaker was, I'm going to make a zombie version of The Odyssey. It's going to make sense. It's going to be wonderful. And it was goofy, but man, we had a lot of fun.
We
with
did.
that.
We
It
did.
was a riot. Oh.
I've since put all the special features from. We made a 15-minute movie with an hour and 45 minutes of special features. they're all on my YouTube channel, and you should watch them all. Everybody except for Scott, I think, sitting at this
I don't
table.
think Paul was involved, unfortunately.
All right, and Steve wasn't really there, but you were in the special features. Cobra Commander says action.
Somebody had to stay back.
Fagandor! We're gonna have a Q&A session after this, but I wanted to thank my panel for being here with me today. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Very shortly after this, we're gonna take a quick break so people can use the bathroom, order food, get drinks, and then we're gonna come back with a homemade card game that I've made, which actually, he told me not to point him out, but I'll say this, the sound guy who I work with, the bartender, Rusty Shackelford, helped me design. It's called Right Quote Wrong Movie. I played it on my show. We're gonna hand out cards to the audience and play a couple rounds of that game, just because I'm full of myself and I'd like to do that. So hopefully you guys stick around for that, and don't throw them away or ruin them, because it's the only copy I've got. All right, so with that, thank you all for making it a Talkbuster afternoon.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're listening to it, and you at home whenever you're listening to it. And please be kind, rewind. And this has been the Talkbuster Podcast Live. Thank you, guys.
Yay!
All right, I'm drinking something.
Chris, you gotta wear that home and see if your kids flip out.
Oh, right?
Who's gonna do the test?
Yeah.
Take over park.
Hey, Bob, I didn't even get a chance to apologize for stealing the bathroom.